flag party, shoulder, arms.
Australia's Federation Guard, General Salute, present, arms. Guard, shoulder, arms. Guard, order, arms. shoulder, arms. Guard, order, arms.
General the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General Designate for the Commonwealth of Australia.
Thank you. Please be seated. The Commission from Her Majesty the Queen appointing General David John Hurley, AC, DSc, retired, to be the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen of Australia and her other realms and territories, Head of the Commonwealth. To David John Hurley, Companion of the Order of Australia, Distinguished Service Cross, greeting. We do, by this our Commission, under our signed manual and the Great Seal of Australia, appoint you, David John Hurley, to be, during our pleasure, our Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. And we do authorise, empower and command you to exercise and perform all and singular the powers and directions contained in the letters patent dated 21 August 2008 relating to the office of Governor-General, or in future letters patent relating to that office, according to such instructions as our Governor-General for the time being may have received or may in future receive from us, and according to such laws as are from time to time in force. And we do declare that the powers conferred by this our Commission include any further powers that may in future be assigned to the Governor-General in accordance with Section 2 of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia. The Commission is signed at its head by Elizabeth R. and was given at our court at Buckingham Palace on 30 May 2019. It is countersigned by Her Majesty's Command, Scott Morrison, Prime Minister. I now invite the Chief Justice of Australia to inspect the Commission. The Chief Justice will now administer the Oath of Allegiance and then the Oath of Office.
I invite you to make the Oath of Allegiance.
Thank you.
I, David John Hurley, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
I now invite you to make the Oath of Office.
I, David John Hurley, do swear that I will well and truly serve Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law, in the office of Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and I will do right to all manner of people after the laws and usages of the Commonwealth of Australia, without fear or favour, affection or ill will. So help me God.
Your Excellency, having now made the oath of allegiance and the oath of office, I invite you to sign the instrument proclaiming that you have assumed the office of Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. Whereas Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has been graciously pleased by commission under her Royal Sign Manual and the Great Seal of Australia, dated 30 May 2019, to appoint me, David John Hurley, Companion in the Military Division of the Order of Australia, Distinguished Service Cross, to be Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. Now therefore I proclaim that I have this day made the prescribed oath of allegiance and the prescribed oath of office of the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia before the Honourable the Chief Justice of Australia, and that I have assumed that office accordingly. Signed and to be sealed with the Great Seal of Australia on 1 July 2019, David Hurley, Governor-General, and countersigned by His Excellency's Command, Scott Morrison, Prime Minister.
Daranuna, Daranunawal, Yanga Gulanin Nalawiri, Dunai, Nanawal Dara, Wangaralini Yin, Marin, Balan Bugarabang. Having just, with permission, made acknowledgement of country in the Ngunnawal language, I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land in which we meet, the Ngunnawal people, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, emerging leaders, and all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders gathered here today. Prime Minister, the Honourable Tony Smith, Speaker of the House, Senator the Honourable Scott Ryan, President of the Senate, the Honourable Susan Kiefel, the Chief Justice of the High Court of Australia, the Honourable Anthony Albanese, Leader of the Opposition, members of the Ministry, members of the Australian Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Chief of the Defence Force and senior defence leaders, departmental secretaries, distinguished guests, and my fellow Australians. Sir Ninian Stephen, the 20th Governor-General of Australia, once described the role of Governor-General as depicting a nation to its people. During the last 4.5 years as Governor of New South Wales, I tried to build on Sir Ninian's theme to explain, in part, the important role that governors and the Governor-General play, that through their engagement with communities, Australians can be provided with a reflection of themselves and of their country. Through speeches, supportive visits, and the conduct of events of encouragement and recognition, the Governor-General can highlight to Australians their inherent strengths, their concern for the common good, their humanity and decency, and their desire for a fair go. We can be informed by many sources of the ills of our society. It is important that we are reminded of its goodness. In my closing speeches as Governor, I highlighted the richness of our society, not richness in a material sense, but a richness of spirit. And I've seen this richness of spirit at work in the people and the organisations assisting our veterans, our rural communities under stress, asylum seekers who we have welcomed into our country, and our Indigenous brothers and sisters. There are countless organisations and people demonstrating how rich this country is every day. As Governor-General, I am committed absolutely to supporting these people in their work. I know that I'll be doing so. I will follow on and build on the work of Sir Peter and Lady Cosgrove. Driven by the timeless notions of public service and working for the common good, they undertook a daunting program of engagement over the last 5 years. I thank them on behalf of all Australians for their dedication, their commitment and contribution to the nation, and wish them well in the next phase of their lives. My emphasis on community engagement will sit alongside the critical constitutional role performed by the Governor-General. Australia has an enviable record as a parliamentary democracy. The efficient and effective performance of my responsibilities is an essential element of our democracy, and I take on these responsibilities with the greatest seriousness. I thank the Prime Minister for providing me the honour of becoming Australia's 27th Governor-General. I look forward to working with him, the government, all members of Parliament and our national institutions in serving the people of Australia. I thank my wife Linda for her support and companionship, both of which are absolutely necessary to enable me to perform my responsibilities and our joint responsibilities. I also thank my children, family and friends for their love, support and forbearance. Along the shores of Circular Quay in Sydney, there are a number of large brass plaques honouring famous authors who have either written in or written about Australia. To me, one in particular sends a profound message to us today. David Malouth, an Australian author, is the son of a Lebanese father and a British-born mother of Portuguese descent, a proudly diverse background that is representative of so many Australian families. Malouth's plaque reads in part, "Australia is still revealing itself to us. We oughtn't close off possibilities by declaring too early what we have already become. Australia is still revealing itself to us. We oughtn't close off possibilities by declaring too early what we have already become." Australia is not a finished product. I look forward with Linda and in working with you in exploring our nation's future possibilities. I'm extremely proud of my country and greatly honoured to become its Governor-General today. Thank you, Mr. President and Mr. Speaker.
All guns empty. One empty. Two empty. Four empty. Five empty.
Six empty!
Cease firing. Gun line move to your left. Left. Turn. Gun line. Quick. March.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask you all to please move across the hall to fill the space on the left-hand side? Thank you. Please come in, ladies and gentlemen, from the right-hand side of the room across to the left. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Shortly, the official party will be entering the members' hall. Could I please ask you to turn your mobile phones to silent as we await their arrival? Thank you. Your Excellencies, Prime Minister, Mrs Morrison, Ministers, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Parliament House for this reception in honour of the swearing-in of His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia. Would you please welcome Ms Tina Brown, Ngunnawal Elder, for the Welcome to Country.
Good morning and welcome to the beautiful lands of the Ngunnawal. I begin by acknowledging my parents, Carl and Louise Brown, and all of the Ngunnawal elders and ancestors, and my brother Adrian for his leadership, and my other brothers as well for their leadership that they passed to me. 30 years ago, there was no involvement of the Ngunnawal people in the opening of this great building. Despite this, my dad and my dad's brother, my Uncle Donald Brown, were very proud that they had worked on this building during its decade of a long construction. In fact, long before the work of Parliament House began, and as I was a little child, I joined my dad and my family and other Aboriginal families who camped up here on Capitol Hill for ceremonies, for dance, for song, and for storytelling, and for also connecting our connections and families to other families. In 1988, there were very many Indigenous people and our supporters from around Australia protesting and the opening of Parliament House. Back then, even Her Majesty the Queen encountered both cheers and cheers during the opening. Today's anniversary and celebration is a different matter. Today we celebrate this anniversary together. In contrast to the reception Her Majesty received, I, on behalf of the Ngunnawal, have been asked to conduct a traditional welcome, and it is I who have the pleasure of acknowledging and welcome the Queen's representative and our very own Governor-General, His Excellency David Hurley, and also the Honourable Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia. I also acknowledge our other distinguished guests that are here with us today. Many of you will know that Canberra is a local word meaning meeting place. Our oral stories and signs tell us that we have been meeting on this land for 25,000 years, or more than 1,000 generations of my family. What a contrast to such a modern democracy evolving on this ancient land. Our people have been able to maintain our long connection to the area because the country provided fresh air to breathe, clean water to drink, nourishing food to eat, and clothing and shelter to keep us warm for our bitterly cold winters. It is on this once exacting land, as the extreme cold of the last ice age was easing, that my ancestors forged their resilience and grew their knowledge of country and handed to those of us who follow them the legacy of our ancestral beings and our creation stories and our responsibility for future of our people and country. They form pathways across this land to guide us. These pathways developed as our ancestors followed the river and creek corridors and ridges and spurs on the hills and mountains, linking our major spiritual and gathering places. Canberra itself is some of its modern roads and tracks evolved from these ancient paths. The responsibility for the future of our people and our country now rests with all of us, which is why I'm here today conducting this Welcome to Country. I am too playing a role in forging a modern Australia based on the best our ancestors and ancient continuous connection can bring to this evolving democratic nation. So on behalf of my extended family and the elders of my people, and in recognition of all who have gone before me, I welcome you to the ancestral lands of the Ngunnawal. I welcome my Indigenous sisters and brothers, and am in all of our legacy tens and thousands of years in the making. I welcome our fellow Australians and honour the mingling of the dust of the bones of my ancestors and the dust of the bones of your ancestors, for it is this which now shapes the land, uniting us all as custodians of the future for Australia. Welcome to the beautiful lands of the Ngunnawal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Brown, for that welcome. Would you please now welcome the Prime Minister of Australia, the Honourable Scott Morrison.
Well, can I start by thanking you, Tina, for that very warm welcome to country. Can I acknowledge also the Ngunnawal people, elders past, present and those who are emerging. Can I also acknowledge any servicemen and women who are here with us today and any veterans who are also here with us today, and simply say to you, thank you for your service. To the members of the Diplomatic Corps who join us, Your Excellencies, parliamentary colleagues, and particularly His Excellency David Hurley and Mrs Hurley. When Sir Paul Hasluck became Governor-General 50 years ago, he noticed that the school children who came to visit Government House and wrote him letters asked him a very consistent question. And they would say, what does the Governor-General do? It's something that we know as parliamentarians, that school children ask similar questions when we meet them here in the building. And it's an important question. There's an important answer, because the answer is central to the stability of our system of democratic government. The office of Governor-General has provided a stability, in spite of politics, for more than a century. But the role goes beyond constitutional, as His Excellency indicated today in his own remarks. Years later, Sir Zelman Cowman answered that question when he said, the Governor-General interprets the nation to itself, and His Excellency, I think, has started in such excellent fashion today in putting that very much at the forefront of his term. The Governor-General finds the good in this country and shines a light on it. In a global age of fragmentation and tribalism, we have in our system a constitutional office beyond politics that enables us all to come together. The joy of this role is who you meet every single day. Farmers getting on with their lives, providing for their families and their communities despite crippling drought. Veterans recovering from their wounds that are seen and unseen. Teachers who work back late to give kids the best possible start in life. Those who care for our local environment and their communities, planting trees, picking up rubbish, keeping faith with our stewardship of the land. Researchers making the breakthroughs that not only we need as Australians, but the world needs. Brave heroes who will tell you they are not heroes. Selfless community workers who can't see their selflessness. And to all those people enduring the moments and tragedy and triumph, they embody all of us. Our Governor-General, not just on tarmacs or on dioceses such as this or platforms, but in classrooms, hospital wards and on drought-stricken farms. More than any role in public life, the job of Governor-General is to bring Australians together, to remind us all of our social fabric and to uplift the discouraged and to give hope. To do that, you need to be a person of extraordinary character. And in our retiring Governor-General and Lady Cosgrove, we had two such people. And with His Excellency today, and also with Mrs Hurley, we have been able to find two such people. Real character that can only be found from a lifetime of service. In this Governor-General, we have such a person, a distinguished cross holder. Your Excellency, you have served, like so many. You led with distinction as an officer in the Australian Army, especially in Somalia, where your command of a battalion group in a foreign conflict was a first for the Army since Vietnam. All up, more than 4 decades of such service, culminating in your appointment as Chief of the Defence Force. Later, as Governor of New South Wales, and I'm particularly pleased that we're joined today by the Premier of New South Wales, Gladys Berejiklian, and also the Premier of South Australia, Stephen Marshall, is also here, and I acknowledge you also, Stephen. But in that role, you were determined to get out of the city and meet people in small towns and regions right across the state. Long after your duty was done, you stayed, you listened, you broke bread, and you connected with people, and Mrs Hurley, usually for much longer after that. Because real connection with people matter to you, because people matter to you both. You regularly jumped in the boxing ring with young Indigenous people in Redfern. And at first they simply knew you as Dave. After your cover was blown, you were bestowed with a slightly more formal title, Gov. You have shown yourself to be generous, approachable, humble, humane, and as someone who looks people straight in the eye, not up and down. All of those qualities, together with Mrs. Hurley, you bring together to this role. In Mrs. Hurley, we have an unstoppable dynamo in whose presence even the most reserved of guests will find themselves, and I'm sure my cabinet colleagues will know this joy soon, taking part in You Are My Sunshine. She is a lady of genuine compassion. The last time you lived in this city, Mrs. Hurley volunteered at the Canberra Hospice. I know Mrs. Hurley will take that, her Christian kindness and compassion around Australia over the next 5 years, as will His Excellency. General Hurley, you are our nation's 27th Governor-General because you have lived out your old motto from the 1st Battalion Royal Australian Regiment, duty first. The members and senators will return here tomorrow to commence our formal parliamentary duties for this term, and for many it will be the first time that they will have walked into that chamber in that new role, and I welcome them particularly also here today. We look forward to you opening the 46th Parliament during your first full day on the job, and I thank you again on behalf of Jenny and I for accepting that invitation that was extended to you, and I know I'll be able to continually say thank you for your service.
Prime Minister, thank you. Would you please welcome the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable Anthony Albanese.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister and Mrs Morrison, my parliamentary colleagues, members of the Defence Force, past and present. Let me begin by acknowledging the first Australians on whose land we meet. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present and emerging. Your Excellency, on behalf of the Parliamentary Labor Party, let me offer my warmest congratulations to you and to Mrs Hurley on your appointment as our nation's 27th Governor-General. This is a great honour which is being bestowed upon a great Australian. And can I say you have begun extremely well. A very brave decision to begin in the Ngunnawal language, which Tina indicated was done extremely well. So congratulations to you and on your first speech as Governor-General in accepting this great honour. You have, of course, served this nation with distinction for a long period of time, in particular as Head of the Defence Force, and over 4 decades of service. You've served the great state of New South Wales with distinction as its Governor, and we have absolute confidence that you will serve this nation with distinction as our Governor-General. Can I congratulate the government on the choice of Governor-General, one that was accepted very much across the political spectrum. It must be said that you do have big shoes to fill. Sir Peter Cosgrove is one of the most outstanding Australians of recent decades. Time after time, when this nation called upon Sir Peter to serve, he responded. On battlefields, when rebuilding after natural disasters, or when exercising the important roles and responsibilities of the office that you now assume. So we wish Sir Peter and Lady Cosgrove well into the future, and we thank him and Lady Cosgrove for their service. The office of Governor-General plays a critical role in our system of government. It is not just about the formal constitutional role, important as that is. It's also about the role that the Governor-General plays in providing leadership, support and indeed inspiration to our community. We have faith that you will occupy this office for all Australians and exercise its powers in a way that unites and strengthens our nation. Sir Peter always delivered on these responsibilities with grace, good judgment and warmth, and we know that you will be more than worthy of his example. When you took the first RAR into Baidoa in 1993, the Defence Force hadn't deployed a battalion overseas since the Vietnam War. Operation Solace achieved its mission, and you and the Australians under your command won international renown. And as Chief of Army and then Chief of Defence Force, your leadership was authentic and ethical in a period with as complex a cultural challenge and as intense an operational environment as any since Vietnam. And Mrs. Hurley, your profession of education and passion for music is already legendary, and it will grace the office with distinction too. As a Sydney-sider myself, I know what a wonderful impact you made in our city and state in your years in Government House. On a personal note, can I say to Your Excellency that you have shown fine judgment in your passionate support of the South Sydney Rugby League Football Club. As you know, I believe that support for the Cardinal and Myrtle should be a precondition for holding the highest offices in this land. So welcome home to Canberra. We are lucky to live in the best nation in the world, a place where people are free and we are united by a genuine sense of equality and mateship. Your presence in Government House will reflect everything that is good about our nation. So on behalf of my colleagues, please accept our very best wishes as you begin an experience that will continue your extraordinary partnership of service to our wonderful nation.
Thank you, Mr Albanese. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please now welcome His Excellency General the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia.
The Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, and all our distinguished guests, I said thanks to my mum and dad this morning, both passed away, for what they provided me in my life in Australia. We came from humble beginnings, but it's a demonstration of the power of this country. Could I thank Tina for her welcome? Delighted to be back here in Inaugural country in Canberra and to enjoy that spirit that's going through the country, I think, at the present time of bringing healing to us all. In 2 weeks' time, we will take next week, the week after this, we will take our first trip out of Canberra as Governor-General. We will go to Aurukun as part of that first trip. And there too, passions will come together because there veterans from my battalion who have suffered over the last 20-odd years will be leading the people and particularly the young men and women of Aurukun in a military-style games, a competition, a skill set, and bringing those clans together in a joyous day. And it just shows to me so much that can be done in this country when we shape the environment for people to see the opportunities that are there. Soldiers who in recent years may have sat at home watching TV now have a meaning in life. And helping young Indigenous men and women develop skills in their community that to go on to broader commitments to our country is such an important thing. When they both come together, it's a lovely thing to see. When I was sworn in as Governor of New South Wales, the then Premier Mike Baird made a comment in his speech that governors go to places that very few people in the country go to. I didn't quite comprehend that at the time. But after the last 4.5 years, we have been invited into so many lives across our country, across the state, it's just astounding. And I know we'll have exactly the same experience across Australia. I'm in a difficult situation because over the last 4.5 years I've said New South Wales is the best state in Australia, and I would not tolerate any pushback on that. This is going to test me and my integrity, particularly with State of Origin coming up. But again, I know what I saw and experienced, that both of us saw and experienced in New South Wales, we will see writ large across our country. We are good people, well-intentioned, difficult issues to be faced, but I think with a good heart. So I look forward to being part of that. I look forward to being with Linda, being able to make a contribution that I hope builds people, builds communities, and points to a bright future. We have with us today the youngsters from the Conservatorium High School who are going to sing for us in a moment. Linda was their patron over the last 4.5 years. A fine example of, just look at the faces, this country and the many eyes that look down at us there. And we're in good hands. One of the important jobs, of course, the most important, is to ensure that the strength of our democracy is maintained. This position, this appointment is critical to that. Of course, it's apolitical. Of course, you must be diligent in your performance of your duties. But at all times to stress to people that the strength of this country is our democracy, which brings stability, peace and certainty to all of us. That is worth protecting. That shapes us. So to make our democracy work, to serve the people, to act as they expect us to act, and put their interests and those of the nations first, that's what we're called to do in service. That's what I'm called to do with this appointment. That's what Linda and I will give our utmost to do. Thank you for coming here today. This is obviously, how do you describe a day like today? Very nervous this morning, settling down a bit now. But to be surrounded by family, friends, and I say faces here I've known for many, many years. We do thank you for coming. We do thank you for celebrating what this day means to our country, not about the person, but about the position and what the position offers. An important day in our history for that reason alone. And thank you for sharing it with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor-General. I would now like to invite for a special performance the Conservatorium High School Choir from Sydney to perform 3 Australian bush songs, Dawn, Birds and Sunset by Ian Grandage.
Spot
Thank you. What an evocative performance and reminding us of the Australian bush. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this morning's formalities. Thank you for joining us.
Australia's Federation Guard, Royal Salute, present arms. Guard, shoulder, arms. Guard, order, arms.
My name is Squadron Leader Aaron Collins, commanding of Australia's Federation Guard. I'd like to now invite you to inspect both the guard and the body. Guard, shoulder, arms. Australia's Federation Guard, Royal Salute,
Present! Arms! Guard, shoulder, arms. Guard, order, arms. Federation Guard, General Salute, present, arms. Guard, shoulder, arms.